evening, everyone. I'm James from the Paint People. Camera, focus. Thank you. How's it going, everyone? Press that like button on your way in because we all love it. Like buttons, they're the currency of YouTube creators. It's very good for us. Help push the content out to as many people as possible. And if you further want to support us on this channel, super chats, super thanks, super appreciated. Just another way to support us because this is kind of my full-time gig, and every little bit does indeed help. So with that out of the way, we're talking about exterior paint trends for 2025, which I think is a good thing to talk about. Today's topic, exterior colors. And some of you might be thinking, hey, it's actually minus 3 degrees Celsius right now, at least where I am in Canada. But I think it's also cool to start brainstorming ideas for when the weather does get good to paint. And we can kind of see if there's any similarities between interior design trends and exterior ones. And there's also people in the States where maybe they don't have to deal with snow, so they're ready to do some exterior painting. So that's what today is all about. And I have really one article, but another article I wanted to highlight just for funsies. And we'll start with that one right off the bat. It is by The Picky Painters. No disrespect. There's a couple of color schemes in here that I am a little baffled by. Okay, so these are going to be the best Sherwin-Williams exterior paint color ideas for 2025, according to this website. And what we see here is just a pretty normal looking home, right? We got Dover White, a warm, timeless classic. I do tend to favor warmer whites outside versus cooler ones, personally. But then we go to number 2, guys. Like, Seguro. Rich, earthy tones. Rich and earthy. That is green. That is real green with the yellow trim accents. Yeah, everything about this is like inspired by nature, natural, and this doesn't look natural to me. This looks like it was created in a laboratory. I'm not a huge fan of it personally. That's just me. I think the yellow undertone, obviously in the yellow, but also in the green, is just putting me off a little bit. It does kind of blend into the lawn, if that's what you're going for, a little camouflage. Smoky blue, fine choice. I just think it's not necessarily anything too new. Belvedere tan, kind of beigey. Peppercorn. Okay, so now like a really dark body of the home, and then you have white trim. Again, not really super modern. I have a feeling the author of this article might have just changed out 2025 to like whatever year this actually was written, maybe a couple of years ago, just for search engine optimization. So yeah, I think it's good to sort of see what other people are talking about and getting, you can get some ideas. But as soon as I saw this, I was like, all right, I think I'm looking at the wrong article. So let's go straight to the real one, which is, of course, Southern Living, 10 exterior paint color trends you'll see everywhere in 2025. And this was written November 11th, 2024. Perfect. A little more up to date. Cameron, let's see what you got. Let's talk about this. So I don't think there is a ton of images for all the examples. We'll kind of get into that a little bit, and I can also pull some stuff up and we can talk about it. But some things I really like right off the bat is embracing forest greens. Dark leafy greens with a drop of brown for extra richness to exterior colors to echo the colors of the surrounding landscape. So this is sort of a better variation of that green and yellow one we saw. Don't go green and yellow. Go with a more herbaceous sort of green, less of that yellow undertone, a little more of an actual leafy kind of eucalyptus green almost. And then you have that drop of brown, which I sort of see as a warm toning of the color. So instead of a tone, which is you're adding gray to the green, let's say, you're adding brown or even like a taupe to create that sort of slightly toned down, mellowed out feel, not quite as saturated, but because it's also brown, you're getting that warmth, you're getting that earthiness, which I think is great. So those types of colors I really do enjoy. And then we got the first visual example here, paying attention to porch flooring. So this is a really fun one. Most people think of exterior colors as the main body of the home. So if it's siding or brick or whatever the case may be, stucco, you got your trim, your shutters, your roof, of course, and then you got your garage doors and your front door. But your flooring of your porch could also be a bit of a statement. And this is quite the statement. This is cool. This is painted. So someone is really good with tape because this is quite the process. And as you can see, it almost looks like wallpaper. It looks like a beautiful geometric design of essentially these cubes that looks remarkable, especially from this vantage point at this perspective. It's a great effect. And it really ties in nicely to the front door. So it's not obviously the exact same type of blue, but there's that continuity going through and, you know, the beautiful plants. This is really cool. So you can have a lot of fun with your front porch. In some cases, it may not be practical. Like if it's a smaller porch, if it's just concrete, maybe the effect won't be as nice. Like this looks like an older wooden deck. You can kind of see the planks through here, but it's a stunning effect. I really do think that's a cool idea, especially if that becomes the true accent. And I think it does. I think it looks great. Taking a hint from foliage. Yeah, this is something that I tried to find something on. For garden accents and accessories, think garden gates, latticework, pots, and other patio accents. I really like choosing a color scheme that mirrors the look of foliage. So they painted their hand railing downpipe by Farrow and Ball, which essentially is like a charcoal gray. But I found some other examples too. Like if we're trying to mimic foliage, then you can also go with green as a color. So this is just a weathered dark green on your latticework, or even this, which is like a high contrast sort of. Or this, I mean, this one is more of a sagey green that kind of blends in quite nice. So by pulling colors from, I mean, that's crazy. Pulling colors from nature, you can get some pretty cool effects. Where's that other one I wanted to see? I wonder if it, let me pull my head down a bit. There we go. Right there. How cool. So now you're going with complementary colors, a beautiful terracotta red background, and then this green, light green lattice work. So I think that's kind of cool. Is you borrow from nature, essentially, in terms of your color palette, off of your home through your garden as well. So you can kind of go beyond the house itself. Welcoming back browns. So brown is in, one of the recommendations is Cromwell Gray by Benjamin Moore. So a pretty earthy, greeny brown almost. It's like a greeny taupe, I guess you could define it as. And outside, this is what we're talking about. Green with a little bit of that brown mixed in, or I guess in this case, it's vice versa. So it's all that brown, a little bit of green. Definitely a bit of a shaded feeling to it. Nearly a 20 LRV, so quite a bit of depth. So outside, it's going to pop quite nicely and just fit amongst nature, which I think exterior colors should almost always do, one way or the other. Holding on to well-loved whites. So apparently white homes aren't going anywhere. But in this example, it doesn't look too bad because it's balanced. There is all these other architectural elements in addition to the white. And it does seem to be an off-white that is perhaps a little warmer leaning. So the siding does feel a bit lighter. You can even see here, actually, it's quite bright in some cases. But Warmer whites, I feel like they just do better outside because cooler whites will get way cooler because of the sun. And then you end up having a fluorescent white bluey house. And that's probably not what you're going for. But just trusting your gut, picking something that's a little softer, I think is always a good move. So sort of a timeless look we got going here with good old off-white. And then we're going to get some fun colors now. So bringing back cheerful hues. So this color, for example, kind of looks like Colgate toothpaste. Looks very pastel. But when you actually look at the color in reality, it is Let It Rain, which is kind of deep. It's a 58 LRV color. So that's basically a mid-tone. Has a lot of saturation, especially if you use this indoors. It's going to be pretty dynamic. You can even see in this little example here, it just goes to show how rich it is. But in this photo, I mean, looks pretty pale, right? It's like a very pale minty color. That is extremely just, it's pretty obnoxious, honestly. Especially with the red roof, it's very complementary. Like they're opposites on the color wheel, green and red. And you can kind of see that relationship. But at least it's like light and kind of pale. At least it seems that way outside. So it's not too intense. Rather than going with something that's like a more saturated version of this, like palm trees or something. Now we're getting into like a really obnoxious territory. So at least we have a paler option in Let It Rain. I think this is very stylistic, and it's not necessarily going to work for, I feel like, most architectural styles. But a Spanish-y vibe, I feel like you can have a little more fun with, generally speaking. But I would never paint my house with that. Maybe on a patio chair, a Muskoka chair. That would be great. Here's one I wanted to really get into, tackling trim in color. So not the greatest example that they gave, but I think it is really cool when people start to embrace colors other than white for their trim outside. And there's some cool examples on the Benjamin Moore website. Like this one I pulled up here. It's a bit hard to see. It's a smaller image, but so essentially Grant Beige is on the siding, and then you have Meditation on the trim. So it is a darker color. It brings in a lot more of a, again, greeny brown vibe. So it's kind of a subtle difference between the two. And then you have these darker accents as well too. The window trim specifically is ivory white, but then you have the stair risers, the doors, everything here essentially is that meditation color. And it just creates like an interesting look, I find. I think it's a little less predictable. And there is quite a difference. So 36 LRV on meditation, right? And then you have Grant Beige, which is a 55 LRV. So a mid-tone and a kind of a dark color, essentially. You can kind of see it like that. But Grant Beige is more on the beige side. There's not a ton of a green undertone happening, but it still fits really, really well. And there's tons of examples actually here with Benjamin Moore. Just a lot of options where you have these trim colors that aren't white. And it looks really good. Like there's a lot of cool things you can do. Like this one almost flips the script where you have the white main body and then the gray trim rather than maybe the other way around, right? Gray body, white trim, or blue body. So that's fun. That's a way to update yourself. And by yourself, I mean your house's exterior. And it's to not have to rely on a white trim. You can actually go with something a little different, which is kind of fun. Reimagining gray. So warm grays are being reimagined with greater depth and character. I'm not going to spend a ton on this one because we talked about this with interior colors. Definitely darker colors are in. We're going for depth now. And it's even more so the case outside because you have more leeway when it comes to how darker colors can go outside. So Chelsea Gray is a good option by Benjamin Moore. a handsome gray with the slightest hint of brown. So kind of a taupey color. Great. And I think I pulled up some images here. Yeah, so, this is not a super modern home, but it gives you an idea of what the color looks like outside. So there's that. This is actually a rendering, and it might not pop up very well. There it is. Okay. So yeah, that's what you can expect with it. Why do they go with this white on the soffits and things like that? See, I would say go darker there. The white is just like, whoa, what's happening? But Chelsea Gray is just an example of leaning into darker, richer neutrals. Kendall Charcoal could be a cool option as well in the Benjamin Moore catalog. And then on the subject of neutrals, you're going for more sophisticated neutrals with more nuance. And really what they're just saying here is, maybe we'll go with some greenage this year. So drop cloth is the example they give. I found some close alternatives. Benjamin Moore's Greenwich Gate, which is another one of those very more than meets the eye neutral. So a lot of colors all coming together. I mean, I know Greenwich Gate probably has like 6 or 7 different colorants that are being used because it is part of the Color Stories palette. So there's a lot happening there. And then you have Jogging Path, which is by Sherwin-Williams. And this one even feels a little more like a greenage because it has that green aspect as well. So all 3 of these kind of in that same sort of boat, but they're really great alternatives to just a plain tan or a really light beige. They have depth, they have body, they have, really complex undertones that can kind of shapeshift throughout the day, which I think is fun. And, it is important to test your colors out, but I think it's a natural fit when you're going with a neutral that does have a little bit of a green undertone when you're using it outside. I think it's a cool option. So all 3 of those are great choices, I find. So exterior colors, I think I still love, your good old combination of red brick and black trim, or even dark trim in general, whether it's like a navy blue or even like a teal. I think there's a lot you can do. I think, kind of like interiors when it comes to cooler grays, those bluey colors. That's what I'm kind of like, okay, I've seen that a lot. It looks okay, but I'm getting a bit tired of it. So like the slate grays, the dusty navy blues with the white trim and perhaps the yellow front door. That's kind of like the equivalent of light grays all over the inside of your home to me. And I think there's ways you can kind of change it up. So even if you have that kind of bluey, slatey gray color on your home, what we learned from this article is you can maybe just change out the trim, change the color to something that is not quite as stark and crisp as white, something that's maybe a bit halfway, a bit of a lighter mid-tone perhaps, to give you a more subtle feeling look that is not so contrasty and predictable. But there's nothing wrong with it too. It's like, if you like it, you like it. You know what I mean? And then, of course, changing out your front door color is a great way to just transform the curb appeal of your home really quickly. And that's something that you can kind of, you can really pick any color you want to a certain degree. The front door is what the powder room is on the inside of the home, where it's a color you can kind of really play around with and have some fun with. And your front door is kind of like that too, where it should still feel somewhat cohesive. It shouldn't just be YOLO completely, but there is an opportunity to just have a fun pop of color that that really just stands out on its own. So let's talk to some people, and it looks like we have Coastal Diva chiming in on a Saturday. Didn't get the notification. Too green, yeah, minty. It was, yeah, Let It Rain. Very, very minty. drop cloth for outside. Yeah, absolutely. The thing with Pharaoh Ball, though, it's expensive. Not a lot of people use it, especially on the exterior side of things, which is why I wanted to offer those two options from Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams. They're not going to be carbon copies. They're not going to be exact matches, but just to give you some flexibility. And you have an orange front door. Nice. That's cool. Orange is actually an interesting one. My sister and brother-in-law, they had an orange door that they loved, but they didn't really test it out. They just loved the color, and it still looked great. It coordinated perfectly with the brick on their home, but something looked off about it. Like they didn't know why. But I kind of figured it out. It was the trim around the door that was gray, and it was almost this like really cool leaning gray that just kind of clashed, and it almost looked purpley, like it had a really strange interaction. So I told her, I'm like, either you gotta pick an orange that is a little more neutral and tones into the gray, or you gotta warm up that window door trim, rather make it a little warmer so it ties into that orange a bit easier. So that was the problem. Like the color temperatures were completely different, and it just popped for not all the good reasons. HTA, I'm building and planning on urbane bronze and natural cedar on a contemporary home. A bit dark, but I like dark. And a lot of people like dark, I feel, especially outside. And the contemporary feel really suits those dark colors. Love it. I think it'll look great. I love the idea of natural wood with urbane bronze, as long as you're not staining it some weird orange color. Because there's so many houses near me, it's just like, we call them robot houses, where they're like uber contemporary to the point where it seems forced almost. And the stain that they used on the wood it makes it look like it's like a tangerine color. It's brutal. And I mean, it's probably not even wood. It's maybe composite, but that's the look they're going for. So, macadamia nut and Modesto white trim. Let me look at that. Let's take a look, see. Modesto white. Thanks for joining me on a Saturday, everyone. Modest white. Sorry, not Modesto. So next week, I think we're going to do another Wednesday, Friday schedule, perhaps. And then the following week, we might just go back to good old Fridays and do a longer Friday. Macadamia nut, paint color. Let's look at this color combo. All right, chat, what do we think? Macadamia, Coastal Diva. I'm assuming this is the color. Sherwin-Williams. And then modest white on the trim. Beautiful. 50 LRV. Yeah, it should look pretty bright outside. I think the undertones are good, though. Yeah, I think it'll... Yeah, that looks awesome. Yeah, you don't want to go pure white because that will be a bit too bright. So I think you're definitely on the right track there. Just on my first little look-see. Help with exterior color options. My home's roof is metal, Lincoln log green, and a complete surround porch, also green roof. Currently, it is dark red lower and black faded to eggplant upper story. That is a conundrum. So, Carol, what I would recommend for you is I think you maybe need an actual consultation. Just because I need a lot more context. So I'm going to plug this right now. We do palette pyramids, meaning I do custom palette pyramids where you can actually send me images of your exterior. For example, I can take in all the information. You can give me your preferences. we can then put together a palette pyramid for you. Whether you need a 3-color palette, 6 colors, not 12. You don't need 12 for the outside. Even 6 is pushing it. And then we do a back and forth. These are the prices. It's like essentially a very base level color consultation. And then we also have Maria. She's our full-time color consultant, and she does the more hands-on, back and forth video calls, full service online consultations as well. And then I think that is going to be the best way that we can service you. Because I could just give you colors, but then they may not work well, right? Not without context. I would love to help you and just say, yeah, pick this, pick that. But it could end in disaster. And I think that would be a bummer for everyone involved. Yes, Coastal Diva, everything looks a lot lighter outside, for sure. When you're thinking of mid-tones inside, they look like light colors outside. Dark colors, they look mid-tone, right? So you always have to factor that in. And I mean, you won't need to really think about it if you're just testing your colors out. So that's my thing. I love testing. Okay, so what we will do here, let me see what's on the schedule. Okay, so next week we're going to look at 2 things, one of which being 6 of the best paint colors for rooms without much natural light. So if you have any parts of your home that are a little more dimly lit, you're not blessed with a beautiful bay window, you can use these paint colors essentially to help you elevate the space as best as you can. And then Fridays we'll just leave as a mystery for now. But I think that's a live. It's a Saturday night. Looks like a lot of people are hanging out with their loved ones, their friends and family. But I really appreciate you all for hanging out with me. You know, really, really appreciate it. So if you have any other questions, just leave them in the chat or in the comment section of the video after this gets posted to YouTube, and I'll do my best to get to them. But for now, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Love you guys.